Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Talk Diabetes with Nkiruka. So today I'm going to be telling a or sharing a personal story. And the reason why I'm sharing this story is that this particular topic of discourse has become something that is a bit of a burden to so many persons living with any type of diabetes. And persons from the low medium income countries seem to have this as a big problem. And the way our healthcare professionals spill out the diagnosis to persons living with diabetes actually reshapes their thinking and their mindsets, which is now skewed to the negative. So I'm going to talk about my personal story, how my diagnosis was related to me, and how it shaped my life earlier on in my diagnosis in the negative path, but I fought hard to bring back that negative conception or ideology about diabetes back into the positive, which has now reshaped the way I think, the way I behave, and the way I look at diabetes as a whole in the positive light. I will never look at diabetes in the negative. No. So let's sit back, relax, and enjoy my story. At age 7, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And my doctors did not equip me enough to take in the whole diagnosis thing. So this is my real life story from West Africa, Nigeria. This isn't an easy video for me to make, but I think it's one that is very important that I talk about. And I'm just trying to shed or shine some light on what it was like being diagnosed with diabetes in the late 80s in a country where healthcare is so complicated. If you come from a low or medium income country, you will probably relate to this more than you would like. It all started with me being ill. I was losing weight, always thirsty, and always tired. The classical 40 symptoms. I finally made it to the hospital with my dad on that fateful day. That was, I think, the 22nd of February 1988. And my dad and I sat across from the doctor, and the doctor asked me what my symptoms were. And I just told him I was throwing up, I had a bit of a fever, I was drinking lots of water, and I was peeing so much. And in fact, the reason why I was in hospital that day was because I wetted the bed, which was something that I have never done. And I kept throwing up, so my dad had to bring me. And what he just said to me, "Oh, you have malaria and typhoid fever. We just have to admit you into the hospital and get some fluids into you via intravenous infusion." So no test was carried out and treatment commenced with dextrose drip to rehydrate me. So the treatment continued and I wasn't getting any better. I had been given like 5 bags of IV dextrose, and this pushed me into a 5-day coma. So let's fast forward. I woke up 5 days later and I was told, oh, you have diabetes. You have to inject yourself every day. You can't eat carbohydrates again. You have to eat only vegetables and protein, and you cannot afford to get yourself injured in any way. If you do, amputation and gangrene is what will follow, and you will lose your limbs. There was no plan, no pamphlets, and the whole conversation felt like a death sentence to me at such a young age of 7. I didn't even understand what type 1 diabetes really meant. All I was thinking at that time was, am I going to die? How long will I live? What kind of life would I have? How can my family cope with this diagnosis? And most importantly, how can we afford insulin? Type 1 diabetes wasn't something that was common back then. There were loads of people with type 2 diabetes, and in fact, we looked at diabetes as just one type of diabetes, and that type of diabetes was only for old people, because I knew my grandparents all lived with diabetes, so we all looked at it as a disease for the elderly. And I was wondering, how can? Because back then it was oral medications. I didn't even know anything about insulin injections, and it was so expensive back then. So all these thoughts kept going on in my head, and it was just crazy, a roller coaster time in my life. So due to lack of good education with regards to what diabetes was, I decided to make Google my doctor. So I needed to understand this disease. I was eager. So in the whole storm of fear and the gross misinformation, I realized something. So many of us in countries like mine are always left to figure things out on our own. And this is unacceptable. This is not okay. It took time, but I started learning, not because the healthcare professionals taught me. I was self-taught in managing myself for the most part of my life. Eventually, from Google, I found others online who live with diabetes, and I learned so many things like carb counting, figuring out how to combine food groups and maintain good blood sugar readings. I also figured out different activities that affected my blood sugar levels in tandem with meals and insulin injections. And most importantly, I learned from the online diabetes community that diabetes type 1 is not a death sentence, and that you could live your life to the fullest. Yes, it's a full-time job. In a place where insulin can cost more than your rent, to be honest, it's not easy. I am still here, still fighting and still living, but there's so many people back home who are still struggling to afford to buy insulin. Most times they would prefer to eat rather than use that money to buy insulin. So the message I wish I heard, or I wish my doctor said to me, this is hard. but you are not alone. We will figure it out. Let me help you understand. But I never got this message. So now I'm saying it to you. Somebody out there is listening. I'm speaking to you. If you have been just diagnosed with diabetes, especially in a low medium income country where the system doesn't support you, know this: you are not broken, you are not weak, and your life still has value, meaning, and possibility. If this story hits home, please comment below. We need to raise our voices because in the low medium income countries, too many of us are suffering in silence, and the way our diagnosis is being told to us affects the way we look at diabetes as a whole. There's a negative connotation surrounding the disease, and this needs to stop. Speaking to the healthcare professionals in low and medium income countries, your words matter. Choose your words carefully. Be empathetic. Pass on the message in a way that you are counseling the patient, encouraging them, or the person living with diabetes, rather than the word patient. You're encouraging them, you're giving them hope, and you're telling them you are not alone. We can do this together. It's totally manageable. That is what they need to know. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to hear this. Remember, I'm speaking from a lived experience. I've been there, I fought, and I conquered. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.